Hey, it's Dan, and welcome to Unified Gaming. So in this one, we're going to be kind of talking about the upcoming patch, update 43, and what does it mean for PvP. And kind of in the process, really make some builds that we can kind of hit the ground running day one. So this will kind of be a sneak peek of what I'm thinking, going through the sets, the skills. And if you get any questions, it's your opportunity to ask now. As with all of my builds, I kind of prototype them on the PTS typically, which is what I'm on currently. And then what I then do is take them onto the live server and test them thoroughly there as well. And this gives you a really good way to just get something from day one that will work really quick. And then we can tweak it, refine it if needed, and I'll put a post up. So that's what this stream's all about. And if you get any questions though, just let me know. And there is a poll going to kind of go through what class should we try first. If you get kind of any sort of confusions, just obviously say as well. What I thought would be really useful though to start with is just to go through some of the key changes with the patch and what do you need to know for day one. Just going through the notes really fast, summarizing the key bits, and then I'll look at the poll and then we'll go from there. If your class is not on the poll, just do obviously put it there. And yeah, I'll be also kind of curious to see how people found the PvP event. You know, Mid-Year Mayhem. How was that for you? Was it good? Was it bad? I didn't get to do much because I was on holiday, sadly, but when I did it, it was amazing. Like, absolutely amazing. So, yeah. We're going to start really quickly and just look at the first week PTS, just really fast. And I want to summarize the key things that are coming with that patch. And then we'll go forward like with thing on thing, okay? So this is the PTS patch notes. So in update 43, which is 10.1.0, they are focusing on a lot of quality of life changes, but we're going to focus on combat. And the main thing I want you to just really be aware of is that they've added a few new sets, but most of them, in my opinion, are pretty naff. Like, I've gone through these quite extensively, and there isn't many that I'm like, yes, this is really good. The only one that really stood out was this Umbral Edge. If you played previously, this was really, really OP. This was like the original Nightblade passive. So this might be worth getting, and it hasn't been nerfed. Like, looking through all of the notes, this has not been changed. So this is really, really worth considering. This Warden one seemed good, but it did get like nerfed, and it's pretty naff in my opinion. It doesn't do enough. And the Corpse Buster, I did try it with the other proc set that Necro has, the other class set. They don't like link, so you can't use this on yourself. I was really sad with that. So this isn't great either. And then the Sorcerer one was also a bit naff too, and same with the Arcanist. Like, they were just all pretty eh. They've added a few new kind of just sets and stuff. The one thing that I really like though is that with the monster sets, you can now essentially buy things that you want, and they're going to be created. So if you're missing a weight of a certain shoulder, just keep buying it and you'll get it. So this is really, really nice. So this is a really, really good way of doing it. They've added some more like skill stuff down here. And then for the combat itself, one of the big focuses that I want to try and give Necromancer more access to major and minor buffs. They also nerfed Warden quite a lot, and they changed Arcanist massively. So if you're playing Arcanist, Arcanist got a really, really big buff in my opinion. With the Arcanist, what they've done is the Flail had a nerf. This was the Stamina Spammable, which is why I'm over on the PTS. And essentially, it doesn't have the Execute anymore, which is a big, big nerf. So I'll show you now quickly. So you can see here, this is my PvE build, by the way. But it doesn't have the Execute. So when you look at this, you're going to really struggle. So for me, I would kind of say just factor that in. And I've just seen in the chat a few people saying make a Necro, which we'll look at what is most popular in a moment, okay? So just with those kind of notes, the Arcanist had a big change. What they've done though is they've made Tentacular Dread a burst skill, and this is phenomenal. I got this up to 17,000 on a build, which means this is like Deep Fissure or Blast Bones. Arcanist now has a burst skill in its kit, and with Scribing you also got a burst skill, so you can now build this as a stat build with really high damage and have a really good build, so I'm really excited about that. Necromancer got some changes, but nothing great in my opinion. So I know the chat says make a necro, but there's nothing great. So the sort of in short, like Boneyard is still pretty naff. Sacrificial blast bones, they've just made it work. You can't use it out of combat anymore. So again, you can't pre-buff. So this is a bit naff. The siphon and the coils that you use when you bind to a corpse, they're pretty naff because you can't use them reliably. So they're pretty bad. The only good one was Skeletal Mage. This was actually a good change. This gives you access to Major Brutality or Sorcery without Entropy. So you can run this as a different dot if you want. You can pre-buff with this. And it also works nice with that thematic approach. So this is something I would consider. The Bone Armor also gives Minor Resolve. This is good. It gives you Major and Minor Resolve now, which is amazing. You do have Vigor though, which everybody runs. So, and then the Grave Grasp. This does a bit of damage. But it's one of these weird ones. It's a bit like Warden, which you'll see in a moment, where it's not a damage skill, but it is a damage skill. But it's a crowd control, but it's not a crowd control, and it does both badly. I'd rather just do one thing really well, but it does both things bad. The Intensive Mender got a buff though. This is a really big buff. It heals 2 people now, so you get obviously you and 2 other people, which is really, really good. Too many times when you play on a Necromancer, you're moving around and the ghost is healing somebody else because they do not heal themselves. And you're going, oh my goodness, give me that heal. And it's just so frustrating. So this is a big change here. Nightblade basically got buffs. So Nightblade is buffed again. Yay. So, yay. They moved Blur and it's out of the Assassination skill to the Shadow, which makes sense. They moved Veil Strikes into Assassination, which means it's easier to now get crit buffs, thankfully. They've also changed how the armor passive works. So the Shadow Barrier now gives you the armor for 6 and 12 seconds, not 3 and 6. And the only downside is that you can't proc this easily. So on a melee Nightblade, you would normally use Concealed Weapon, and this would be proccing this in combat. This doesn't proc it anymore. So you have to use something like Swallow Soul or a different stealthy skill. So it's a bit weird, in all honesty. And then Funnel Health, it just changed that. Curse had a bit of a nerf. So it now does its full damage around the cursed enemy rather than dealing full damage to the cursed enemy and half damage around them. So it's kind of like it hits everybody, but it can be blocked, and that's the nerf. Previously, Curse can't be blocked. So that's just worth noting. Daedric Prey it basically becomes a taunt for pets. And then the Templar, they fix an issue with Beam, and they just increase the Empower, which makes no difference for PvP. There's just a few more left of just key things to note for this patch, and we'll go on to the PCS. With the Warden, Arctic Blast got absolutely it's weird. It's now a spammable, but it's an AoE spammable. And it doesn't do both. It's just weird. So the Morph does damage to a spammable attack, but it's AoE, so it's less than a single target, which is bad. The range on it is really bad. You've got to be next to people. Instead of the healing happening, the healing only happens if you stun people. So again, you can't really rely on it as a heal. It's kind of want to be a damage. It wants to be a heal. It wants to be it's just weird. So I'm not sure about how this is actually going to work, in my opinion. I think this is really bad. And the Piercing Cold, they've changed this massively. I need to check if this is a dynamic scale or not. And what I mean by that is, if we get over 30,000 health with toughness, do we then get the damage or the block mitigation or what? So you could manipulate this with a sword and shield and a health glyph, for example. So you could then have slightly more max health on the back bar to get the extra block damage reduction, which is nice. And you could have slightly more damage on the front bar. Would you want to do that? I doubt it, but I'm just curious. Susceptibility had a nerf. This doesn't pull Nightblades out of stealth anymore, which is a really good buff for Nightblades. So again, when I say Nightblades got buffed, their armor is easier to keep on if you use it, and you can't be pulled out of stealth anymore, which is this is the one thing that pulls Nightblades out of stealth. Everything else, pretty naff. The only thing that's worth noting is Vampire Undeath did get nerfed. It went down to 5 to 10%. In the most recent patch, it's now 10 to 15%. So it's 15% at stage 3. So they basically just halved the value of it. Still worth it, in my opinion. The one thing that's not on here, and it's on the other one, which I'll put up in just a moment, is the scribing system now has more frost skills on Willed Soul. So if you play as a Magical Warden, you'll be able to see that there is more options there for you. Sarvedon says Flail is just as garbage as Scythe without the execute. Yeah, pretty much. Lethal DMR was testing a max mag with the mag version of the Flail, and the toolbit was 20k, which is cool. Yeah, Flail is amazing. Like, really, really good. I'm really excited about that skill. With the other one, which was just worth mentioning, was, I think it was week 1.2. But essentially, they made it where the scribing system now has some frost skills on, like, Wield Soul. So as a Magical Warden, you've got access to, like, essentially frost spammable now, which is quite cool. So that's quite nice. But that's it. There isn't much else. So we're going to jump into the character creator now, and then I'll kind of show you what we can come up with. A Necro PvP healer vote. Looking at the poll, so on the poll we have Arcanist at 38, Sulk 25, Nightblade 0, Necro 3 Necro, so that's probably about the same. So it looks like Necro and Arcanist are probably tied. So on the PTS, you've got access to every single thing. So when you go up, just make sure you select the right template. Like, it's easily done, and if you don't pick the right one, you don't get all the stuff. Looking at the poll, I think Arcanist is kind of edging it out, so we'll go for Arcanist quickly, and then we'll go for Necro afterwards if people still want that. For an Arcanist, in my opinion, I'm going to focus more on a burst build, which sounds a bit counterintuitive because Arcanist is not that, but I really want that to work. So I would recommend a Dark Elf or a damage race. So Dark Elf, High Elf, where is High Elf? You could even go with Orc, for example. If you want to go with more of a crit build for just high burst peaks, because it can be quite nice, because you get really nice peak damage, it's just not consistent. I'd rather the consistent damage of Dark Elf, and I'd like to be a vampire, so yeah. Class-wise, Arcanist. And then we'll just call this Arcanist Update 43. It's not letting me put numbers, that's well known. Nah, doesn't let me do it. We'll go with that one. So this is our Dark Elf Arcanist. Robert says, Stand Burst, Khajiit is nice, or High Elf if mag. What I found, and I do need to make a video on it at some point, is the whole PvP races don't really change. Oh, Lord Rob says use a hyphen. Oh, I'll try that on the next one. I will. One thing I always do, I don't think people do this, but I get asked loads, Dan, do you use add-ons? And I don't really use many add-ons. I always go into combat and always turn these on. Always show my ability bar. I don't really use the timers, but you can if you wish. Attributes always show. Resource numbers and percent is the best one. Ultimate numbers key. You will then want buffs and debuffs always on and permanent off. And have the combat text on. In the combat text, do include overhealing. This is just really useful for you to see. But this lets you see buffs and debuffs on enemies in game. If you're on console as well, it's really, really useful. For this one, what guilds are we in? Let's quickly go and grab a house. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set this up. So I want to make a burst Arcanist. And you have a few ways to create burst in this game. You can use proc sets. You can use high damage proc sets, so things like Clever Alchemist. So you basically time the burst window. Or you can go and just use consistent damage, but just trying to get a combo. So you try and land 2 or 3 things at once. I find the 2 or 3 skills at once works better, in my opinion. So, first and foremost, I think the easiest one to do is to make a talk of the last Aelid King. Sulk's quite popular at the moment, so we'll switch to that in a moment, unless Necro does come up. Let me just change that poll. So we'll start a quick poll. I've just put a poll up just with the new options, okay? So, one of the things that I think is just a really quick way to get an idea of what's going to work is chuck on Talk of the Last Aided King, because it's basically clever Rallying Cry and Retro Vitality in a set, but with like one item. So it's really, really good. So you go to Armor and Weapons, Mythic Items, and then it's Necron. So with this will give us a rough idea of what our tooltips will be buffed, and then we can then obviously put on other sets. For the Arcanist, you want to be mindful that the higher resource cost is determines how much your rune blades cost and whether it's mag or stam, and the Tentacular Dread doesn't. So I wouldn't worry about this bit. It just depends. Are you after a magic spammable or a stamina spammable, or a bit of hybrid? So just factor that in yourself, okay? So I would probably leave my stats to the end and just decide which way do we want to build it. Spammable wise, we have to build something that's a Crux gen. Tentacular Dread needs Crux. Without Crux, this is really bad. So I would recommend using either Rune Blades or a Scribed Spammable, because without a Crux gen skill, you cannot use this. Rune Blades is pretty good. The Escalating Rune Blades is very, very nice. This is like spammable damage plus a little bit more, so this is really worth like getting. And the Withering can be quite nice for some high crit damage. So when you're doing this, you're constantly critting quite often, so you end up getting a good amount of damage. I prefer the Escalating personally, though. Scribe is probably better than Flail now. So I'm going to use Flail as my Tentacular Dread as my burst skill. So for people curious as to what the big change is, let's just go get a quick dummy. When you look at the tooltip, at the moment, this is just with like low damage. It is on 5.2k. Now, if we get some Crux up, it's now on 10,000. It literally doubles in damage. So this makes this really, really, really good. Like, this is a burst skill. Now, what you will notice is the other morph doesn't execute anymore. So if I change this, because this is where there's a bit of confusion. So if we get the utility and we get the skill respec quickly. So we're going to swap this back to Flail. Deal damage, immobilize them, you heal, do more damage if they hit with ink. There's no execute on this. So that means this skill is really bad. It doesn't do enough spam like AoE damage. It doesn't do enough damage to be a spammable, in my opinion. Its like main benefit was that it was an execute, so you could spam this, and as people got low, it hit really hard. Now you actually have to really time this and have an execute on top, because you need that execute anyway. So then you might as well just run a ranged execute that you can hit who you want. You can animation cancel the ranged execute with things like this, because this is instant, whereas this is a channel. So I would just be mindful of that, okay? So that's kind of how that works. I'm going to suggest when you make a new character for your Arcanist, if you use the talk item, you're going to want to go heavy chest, head, and legs, light on the waist, medium, medium, and medium on the feet, hands, and shoulders. This will give you about 7,000 weapon damage with 30,000 armor. So you're really tanky, and you have almost 2k regen. So we'll quickly build that and just show you how like stupid that is as a setup. So we're going to go and place down some craft stations really quickly. I like having the armory system on this, by the way. Call Me Flex says, is M-Pen a good trait for PvP? Yes is the answer, in my opinion. when you consider impen, consider it as a kind of... It's a kind of like passive defense. It's always on. So I view impen and reinforce as like passive defense that always work. And then well fitted is active defense that if you time it right, it's really good. But if you don't, then you're not like going to get any benefit. Impen just always works. So it's quite a solid one. We should have quite a lot of ingredients on this one. Okay, so I would recommend heavy chest, and I'm doing any set because it doesn't matter with the talk of the Ayleid King. So I would go with heavy chest and reinforced. I would also do this for the helmet and the legs. The reason we do these 3 items is because they give you the most bang for your buck defense wise. So this is really worth considering. For the other pieces, you want to have a light sash, and this is with talk of the last Ayleid King in particular, either impen or well fitted. Either's up to you. If you're new to PvP and you're worried about stand management and stuff, go with impen. If you're more experienced with PvP, well fitted is much better in most cases with talk of the Ayleid King, because you need that roll dodge ability and the sprint. So I will go with impen for now, but you may want to just interchange this a little bit. Light sash, and we want medium on the hands, the boots, and the gloves. And again, we're doing this because this gives us 1 light, 1 medium, 1 heavy for the Undaunted, which is great. And we want on the shoulders too. We're just going to quickly upgrade these. And unfortunately, I'm on the console UI, so I can't upgrade it really fast. I do apologise. It's like, I know it's really bad. So we'll make this gold. Typically, I only make my weapons gold in my PvP builds on live, just as a heads up. I make everything else purple. You'll see that the difference between gold and not is literally 40 more armor, not even that, and 3 more impen. It's like, it's nothing. So this is the Arcanist, and for people curious about what sets would work instead of talk of the last Ayleid King, if you use Rallying Cry and Wretched Vitality, you get the same result. The only difference is that with Wretched Vitality and Rallying Cry, you have to maintain the buffs. This is basically those 2 sets combined with no buff management is really, really good. So that's why I've gone with this talk, because I'd probably use Wretched and Rally if I didn't have this item, and I'd use talk if I did. And then if people are thinking like, would I be a vampire or not with the changes, Source did backpedal a little bit, and it's 15% mitigation. So if you have missed that, I would recommend like getting that. Lethal has been saying, I've been trying to get the talk, but no luck on the leads. It's one of those ones where you have to just keep trying. I know it's not particularly good advice. Make sure you do the side rooms. That's where the leads drop. So kill the goblins and do every side room that you can, like all the little puzzles. Those are where the leads drop. And on the final lizard, you know, like the silver crystal things. So we get to like the end of the big boss. That's when they drop there too. Okay, so we're going to chuck on all of this quickly. You can make these gold. They'll be slightly better, but like it's not going to be a huge difference. So I made gold what I had like the resources to do. So we've got that there. We'll just make 2 quick jewelry pieces. Now, if you are going to 1vx, or you want to kind of fight more outnumbered, even in battlegrounds, do consider getting some Swift, Like, Swift is really, really slept on. It's like one of the best traits, like in my opinion. Like this is amazing. So this or Infused are like the go-to. So I would like really, really suggest having probably 1 or 2 Swift. Arcanist is a melee class, which means you have to be in their face. And what you find is that that's really hard. The damage loss from running some no Infused is not huge, but the speed boost is massive. So if we get this all the way up to gold, yeah, which, like with this, with the changes to jewelry crafting, it's now quite possible, and you could just use any gold piece you have. You get 14% movement speed. That's like minor expedition. It's a movement buff in 2 traits. It's really strong. Like, this is really, really strong, and it's really slept on. So I want to put these on. I'm gonna leave them as purple just because I don't have the bits, and getting the craft stuff out is a bit of a pain in the ass. So we'll leave that there. Glyph wise, we're going to go for some triglyphs and some max food and regen. I would use poisons and bat bar, try potions because they're just good for everything. And then what I'll do is I'll show the superstar of this bit at the end, so you can copy this. It doesn't matter which ones you pick. So I'm going to probably lean more towards the physical, just because that extra stamina regen can be quite useful. And then we're going to get Bear Haunch, I think it is. This basically Jaws of Misrule, which is this one here. And then if you want to have more max resource, a Sugar Skulls is great. Or you can use like Citrus Fillet for a bit of damage and max health. Or use the stamina version, which I think is this one here. There's one of these ones. Pardon me, that one there. Sorry, I get blown up even on Rallying Cry, so I don't get the point of it. Rallying Cry, you have to keep the buff on. If the buff falls off you, you are really vulnerable. And a lot of people tell you not to run Impen with Rally. I'd still use Impen. Like, crit is what kills people. So let's just quickly enchant my armor. We're going to go all prismatic. The reason you go prismatic is it's like the most stat dense. As an Arcanist, you use all resource pools. So if you can't afford prismatic on everything, just do the head, the chest, and the legs. And then just do a mix of like magical or stamina on the other ones. If you can afford it, obviously go for it. It is better. And then jewelry wise, I'm going to go for 3 damage, which we've got already. And I'm going to put our skills on. So on the bat bar, I'm going to use the tree ties. This is basic regen. It's really, really good. I'm just going to sign my points so I can't move my skills where I like them. So we have 20k health. So let's put our food on quickly. Oh, this one, sorry. So our regions at the moment, bearing in mind we don't have a gold weapon yet, and our buffs aren't on, so this will go up quite a lot already. We are probably going to need about 30,000 health, maybe 31k health at least in PvP, because you're melee. So I'm going to go for 31k, which is this. And then I'm going to try and get these to about 20k if I can. Or as close to. So drop that a bit. If you notice, I'm trying to get them very similar, and then what you can then do is just pick. Do you want mag spammable or stam spammable? I would recommend going with a magicka spammable, because you want to use your stamina for movement. So I would probably do that, because that gives us a really high amount of health. We can then change our recoveries around or do some shenanigans if needed. So we can then put on all our skills quick. We're going to use Dread here, Escalating here. On the back bar, we're going to use Tree Ties on the end. That's just a passive damage buff. We are going to use the Crux Weaver armor, which is a Crux gen. I'm going to use a scribe skill for my spammer for my burst steel. I'm going to use rune and then change it to colorless pull, which is a stun. So that's really good. So that's going to go there. I'm probably going to use Dawnbreaker because we want to go burst, and Dawnbreaker is really good burst. Now you could use the tentacle. That's going to go there. I would use Gibbering Shield back bar. That's really good. And then use the Sanctum of the Abyssal Sea. That's really, really good there. We then need a burst heal and vigor. So let's go grab our vigor quickly. And so this is what I'm doing. I'm thinking of what I need for my build. I need to heal over time. I need to have a movement skill. So I probably have either Race Against Time or Misform. I'm going to go Race Against Time. I find that better than Misform. That's going to be a burst still here. We then need an Execute. So I'm probably going to run Executioner because that is really, really strong. And we don't have an Execute currently. And we can animation cancel this. So this is really good. And it gives us a free skill which we can use for whatever we need really. So I normally leave this as like a flex spot. So we could go with like Runic Defense, which is a really good skill. Mag might be a bit hard to sustain because we have so many mag skills already. So I would probably suggest putting on a passive buff for now, like Camo Hunter. And then we're going to put our Scribe skill here. So let's quickly get that. Let's get all the Scribe and stuff quickly. We've got loads of ink now. Okay, I'm just going to just reload the UI. Because you get loads of notifications. And I'd say this is probably like kind of be, in my opinion, one of the stronger Arcanist setups next patch. We just need to make a quick weapon. We're going to just pull one out that's pre-made. Armor weapons. It doesn't matter what weapon you pick because these are all going to be like disabled because of talk. I would recommend going with a maul always. The maul gives you the pen from the 2H passive. And then back bar, I'd probably go with an ice staff. Actually, I've been doing this more recently, and I'm going to go with an Inferno staff, and hear me out, I'll tell you in a sec, but an Inferno staff is really slept on. So that's going to go there, and this is going to go here. The last thing we need to grab is a transmutation and a scribing thing. And quite a few people, like, they've said to me before, like, how do you kind of get a feel for, like, will it work or not? And a lot of it comes down to experience. So when you've played a lot of the game, you get an idea of kind of what stat numbers you need to hit for a build to be viable. Don't know why that reset, that's annoying. There we go. So I want my skills on as well. Okay, so scribe wise, we're going to use Willed Soul. We're going to put this to Healing Soul. It's already 12,000. It's a burst heal. It's huge. We can then put on Class Master and make it a Crux gen, which again, more Crux, nice. The Resurgence though will probably help because it's quite expensive. And this makes it a similar price to the other burst skills that we'd normally use. And then we could use Resolve or Vitality is the best one. So that's going to go there. So that's a nice one to have. We just got to change our necklace to be infused. And then this will give us an idea of what our stats look like at the moment. Let me put my armor buffs. So you can see this is front bar. We have 26k, 25k, plus we have 15% from this, which is 9,000 armor. That's not shown. So that's a huge amount of armor already. We're going to put the weapon on the back bar as defending. So then this will give us, and this is without CP by the way. So let me put on my armor back bar. We have 30k spell resist almost and 28k physical. 1800 crit resist, which is typical. And we also have the 15% mitigation from this, which is 9k armor or 15% crit reduction. So like rallying cry. So I think, let's see what our dread will be when we buff up in combat. So we'll use these as our spammable. Our dread is 15k, which is pretty good. That's our deep fissure. So we can obviously then do the stun and then go for the like that on somebody. So I think that could work. We could add a bit more damage by going infused here, but I don't think it's worth it. We're going to add a Munderstone now. So let's see what we're missing. We've got penetration wise 6k there almost. Plus we have minor pen here. So I'm probably going to change this though. And this is where I did the tweaking. We're going to swap this out for elemental susceptibility. It's a dot basically and it's armor debuff. And then we could run race against time on the front bar. Which means we can move around or we can move tree ties on the front bar if you wish. So there's a few ways around this. And this is where I'm just tweaking things to kind of making sure I have everything I need. So we now have 9,000 pen extra, which means we have 15,000 penetration roughly, which is pretty good. And like these stats are always on, which is like, we just do armor and vigor and we're buffed up. That's it. Like we are fully buffed for combat. 6k weapon damage. 30k armor almost, 15% mitigation, 2,000 stam and mag recovery, which is amazing. Let's see what is with a potion. Yeah, that's 2.5. That's plenty. That is. CP wise, I'm probably going to add these quickly, and I think the Arcanist is almost set up now. I'm going to go for crit damage and crit healing because this works for all of our damage. We have a mix of like single target and stuff. It's a bit awkward. We want direct damage because all our damage is direct. Yeah, what do you guys think of this Arcanist, by the way? And you can change this with Rallying Cry. Just for people curious, Rallying Cry and Wretched gets the same result. So that's going to go here. We could use that. We could use that. Or that. I'm probably just going to go for Wrathful Strikes. It buffs all of our damage. It is worth considering getting... this is quite nice. The Focus and Mending. This is quite a good one. So I'm going to use that instead of Wrathful Strikes. I'm going to go for Ironclad. And then for the red ones, because we don't have full medium, I'm going to go for Celerity. So Celerity is going to be some movement speed, which would be really helpful. And then we're going to go for Sustained by Suffering, which is like a staple for PvP. And Pain's Refuge. They're both really good ones. So that's up here. And then we can either go for Survival Instincts or Bastion. There are so many Sorcerers this patch that I'm going to go for Bastion just because Sorcerers are OP. And that would probably be the CP that I'd run for this. So we can then check our buffs now. So So let's just have a look at our Tentacular Dread tooltip. That is 16.5k, which is amazing. This is a huge burst skill. Our Dawnbreaker is 16.5k. So these combined literally is like over 30k. What's our burst still on? That's 14. That's almost 15,000. This is massive. Let me put on the combat text quickly. That is there. Show overhealing. Yeah, so 16k, which that's like 8,000 in PvP. That's massive. That is such a big heal. To get an 8k heal every single time you push it. What I'm going to now do is just do a quick sustain test. So all I'm doing is just using my spammable and seeing how quickly that goes. So I'm thinking, let's look at our, now obviously you won't be spamming against somebody like that because you'll be trying to do combos. But I'm thinking it might be worth adding a regen glyph here. So let's do that. And this is what I do with all my tweaking. I kind of get a feel for what do I need. Because I'd rather have more sustain than not enough. Yeah, so that is probably going to be a good amount. Because it plays with like Magical Warden is what I'm trying to get. So when you go up to somebody, you do that. And you'll have a huge burst combo. Yeah. The last thing we're going to then do, just to tweak it a bit further, is jewelry. Let's go get some magic damage. Chuck them on here. It's not a lot of magic regen, but it's a little bit extra. And this is what I'm trying to balance everything for how we need it. Let's make that sharpened, that weapon. And this is like all they're just tweaking. Now I'll take it into IC in a moment. So 9k, almost 10k there plus 9k pen, but debuffs. That's 19,000 penetration we have, which is we've got a lot of pen on this build. So just having a look. What's our crux? 15, 3, 6, 9, 11. So yeah, it's just over 10, about 10.3 roughly. So yeah, that's pretty decent spammable for a ranged spammable. Let's have a look at Dizzying Swing. What is that? Because that's what people would normally use as like a stamp skill. So that's 10.5, that is. Yeah, 10.5. I'm just going to see if we can change this to a scribed skill, the 2H smash. Bleed. Physical damage. We'll see if that goes up a minute. Robert says that the 2H scribe skill hits super hard. It doesn't have the same spammable damage as a single target, which is the problem. We need to be our crux gen, so this has to be here. And then we could put on Berserk, which will probably help the damage on that actually. We've got Breach already, we've got that already. That would be nice for the speed. That could be quite nice, or that would be nice for the crit chance. The Vitality would just be funny, because we'd have loads of healing. Loads of healing. I would probably go for Mangle, 10%, or Berserk. We'll keep Expedition for now, just as a... because I think being speed is very important in PvP. And then... yeah, so you can see it's already a lot less. That's 10.5. That's 7.6. And I don't think there's much we can do about that. Eight. Can we get follow-up on it? Wrecking Blow for Berserk and Scribe Skill for Savagery. That could work, possibly. All the good things are here that we want. I was thinking of getting Wayfarer's Mastery, but we need Crux Gen. We don't have. You need that Crux Gen for the spam ball. And ideally, we would use this, but we're using it for healing, so we can't use that. What does Torchbearer? I know this is a bit like clunky, but it is really cheap. It's 2 seconds though. So 15,000, so it's 7.5 again, but so it's the same as this. Same as Smash, as in DPS. Let's try it with Berserk, because we need to get that tooltip higher, because it won't be viable otherwise as a thing. But I think we might just have to stick to the Rune Blades. Yeah, 8.2, so it's not a million miles off from the other one. Obviously, this won't be that high because of the thing, but this is range. There's that advantage. Let's have a look at this. This is 27578793 roughly. To 9,300 approximately. This is 7.6, but this would obviously give us this buff. $8.4, so it's about 900 less. And we have to use something that gives us Crux for the spammable, or we won't have enough Crux for the burst. So yeah, 16.2 already. That's quite a good amount. That's more pen. That's more pen though. Yeah, I'm probably gonna stick with just having seen these. I'm going to go with Rune Blades as the option. And I think this is what I'm going to use day one next patch for my Arcanist. So if I go to Superstar, this is what we have. And I'll quickly buff up so you can see, because that does affect the tooltips and the stat page. So let me just put those on. Yeah, so that's what we're using. 6k there, loads of resists, plus that 15% torque. Now Mundus wise, we can add a Mundus. I think I'm going to go with, and I'm going to leave this for you to decide, but I'm probably going to go with the Atronach. Because this is such a weird way of playing Arcanist. I'm going to go with over sustain to begin with. And then, because we've got loads of pen, we've got 9k there, plus we have almost 10k, sorry. Plus we've got 3,000 plus 6,000. So we've got like 18,000 penetration, almost 19. We have enough penetration. What we will struggle with is the mag regen. Because our mag pool is quite low, so we need to really stack that mag regen. But if you look at that, our mag regen is going up really nice now. 3.4k, which is amazing. Because we need it to a point where we can spam damage and move around, because all of our skills cost magicka. Yeah, so I think that's the way to go with this. I know it seems like an obscene amount of regen, but I'd rather have that and not need it than need it and not have it. So that's what I'm going to settle with on my Arcanist. The burst deal is 14 odd K, which is insane. That is absolutely insane. Yeah, 14's 8. What do you guys think of the Arcanist? I think we're pretty much there with this. And if you want to make this without the talk mythic, I would suggest that you then run Wretched Vitality and Rallying Cry. You use these two sets, you then put on something like Markham, Ring of Majesty, you can use Saint and Seducer mythic, 1 Trainee and a monster set of choice. Balorg is great, 1 Baron Thrisk, 1 Magma Incarnate, 2 Magma Incarnates also really good for the Minor Courage, that's pretty decent. Or you can use Roska, that's also quite decent. So Wretched and Rally with Regen Monster Set or Balorg and a Mythic of choice will get you very similar stats to this. And we can see we have put on my buffs. Because in combat you would have this Psychic Liaison passive going, we'd have 6k weapon and spell damage and loads of pen. So I'm going to think that's done, I think. This is what I'm going to use next patch. Like day 1, and I'll tweak it. But this is like what I'm going to start with. And I'll make small revisions, just really utilising this dread skill. Like it's 15k, it's really good. Now you can get this higher with some builds, but this has ease, simplicity to set up. It's really like easy to do. So yeah. Looking at the poll, what we have next. Sulk is at 38%. Necro is next. Warden's just under. So we'll save this. So I'll leave that there. And then for the poll, Sorcerer is top. So I will probably do another class or two, and I'll try and do another stream in the week as well to do one for every single class. So that way you got a range of builds that we can do, and I'll make videos for these too. Sorcerer's going to be pretty easy to set up, in all honesty. I didn't put Vampirism on this Arcanist, by the way, for people curious. I will try it without it to begin with, but if I need the defense, I'll add it afterwards, okay? I've just put another poll as well to see which one we're going to do after this. Sorc will be a lot quicker to do because it's quite easy. It's quite like simple. Race-wise, you basically go as Dark Elf if you want to be a vampire. You go for Breton, or you go as High Elf. They're like the best 3. If you're not one of these, it won't make or break the build, but Dark Elf is amazing, High Elf is amazing, Breton's amazing, so any of these. I'm going to use Breton just because that's what I have on live, but I would probably go with Dark Elf for the Flame Resist or High Elf for the Stamina passive, because you get Stamina back when you use magic skills. So that works quite nice with Assault. So we're going to go... so that's that one there. We're going to go Sorcerer, and we are good to go. Yeah, so Sorcerer will probably take about 15 minutes to set up because there isn't many changes to it. There's a few that I will tweak, in all honesty. So, with the Sulk, you basically have to stack max resource. Now, I'm curious. I've been working on a really weird Sulk, which I might show at the end of the stream if I get some time. But it is like it's so out there that I've not seen anybody do anything like this. But it is really stupid. Okay, so that's all that ready to go. All this stuff here is ready to go. Yeah, I've been experimenting with a Sorcerer idea using Esoteric Greaves, but it's a Magicka Sorcerer, which sounds obscenely weird, but I've got almost 6,000 stamina recovery on the build, with still having like 50k magicka and like 3,000 mag regen. It's actually stupid. So I'm going to tweak that as well. For the Sorc, what are we going to do? Consumable wise, you basically go with just max magicka in all honesty, or regen. So you could go with something like Citrus Fillet, Health Magicka, that's quite decent. You could go with Witch Mothers if you're poorer, that's also quite decent. I would go with Pickled Fish Bowl, this is amazing. That's really good. Sugar Skull's good. Bear Haunch is decent. Miseral's decent. Like, the food's kind of up to you. Personally, if I'm in CP, Pickled Fish Bowl is amazing. If I'm in no CP, Witch Mothers or Citrus Fillet is like the other option. Potion and poison wise, potions, you know, it's tri-stat. Poisons that I don't really use on this. I do sometimes, but not all the time. And armor glyphs, I would recommend you get a mix of mainly magicka, but a few prismatic. So 1, 2, 3 prismatic, the rest magicka. Lethal's been sent. I've been ESO Tech Greaves on a Templar. Really hard to kill 1v1. Have to be a Nightblade Gank Glass Cannon cannon to have a chance. Yeah, Esoteric's really slept on. Like, really strong. All points into magicka. Now, if you're newer to this, I would go with like 24 in health. So if you're new to Sorcerer or PvP, 24 in health, the rest in magicka. If you're not new to PvP and you're used to Sorcerer and that reactionary play, sort of that reactionary, you know, that kind of I can react really fast, just all magicka. Johnny says, cheers, mate. We're then going to go and grab some sets quickly. So, mythic wise, there is one mythic that is the best for Sorcerer, and it's Death Dealers. Is it Deadlands? I can't remember which one it is now. Yeah, it's that one. I thought it was that one. We are then going to go and get some Overland set. And we're going to use Wretched Vitality back bar, like it's a staple. Crafty Alfiq. So you want a Crafty Alfiq on the weapon and a sash and hand. Trainee heavy chest. This is just to maximize resistance values. We want a lightning staff. Left it is there. So we just need the sash here. You then want a crafted set. Now there are two options that people go. I've seen a lot of people use Rallying Cry. Rallying Cry and Wretched Vitality I found have similar survival. Just because with Wretched you can spam shields more. That's the difference. Rally will give you more defense when your shield is up, but Wretched will give you the ability to spam the shield, which ends up equaling the same amount. And I'd rather Wretched in 1vx, it's more useful. You can also get Rally from somebody else, so if you run Wretched you can kind of double dip, because people often give you Rally. So I'm going to go with the crafted set, and I would use Wretched Vitality. It is a phenomenally good set. Is it elsewhere? I think it's elsewhere. Is it Deadlands? Deadlands added some really good sets. Yeah, Deadlands added really good sets, it did. Like, when you look at all the good sets, they're all from Deadlands. And then for this, I'm going to go with mainly melee, which seems a bit intuitive, but it's really good. And we're going to go with boots, hands, and legs. And weapon-wise, I've been going Ice Staff on a lot of my builds, but I'm going to go with Inferno this time round, which people are going to look and be like, why? But there's actually quite a good reason. And So I will get to the reason in just a moment. Let me just put the stuff on just to... and I will show you kind of what the reason is and why it's so good. We also then have a free monster set. Now, if you can, you have two choices basically for your monster set, and it depends on how you play. For your monster set, let me go grab all the monster sets. You can either go selfish and go with something like Engine Guardian, which is just more sustain, and it's a passive defense boost because people hit this, not you. So this is really worth considering. If you want to go for more of a troll build, and it's actually quite funny, it catches new players off. You want to use Infernal Guardian. Like, this procs ridiculously quick, and it means your shield becomes an offensive skill. Now, it's not a lot of thing, but when you go, this is 3 mortars over 2 seconds. So you times this number by 3. It's about 6,000 damage over 2 seconds, which isn't huge, but it looks intimidating. And if people are not used to PvP, I've seen people run away from this. So this is quite funny. You could go really, really toxic and go with Durals. This stops people healing. It doesn't affect your shield, so this can be quite nice too. I personally like using 1 Magma, which is really good, and 1 Baron Thrisk. This will give you loads of regen. So if you want 1 Magma and 1 Baron Thrisk, this will give you loads and loads of recovery, which is really helpful on Sorcerer. You need that sustain. The other option though is to go down and get Roska, or Ruska, however you pronounce it. This is essentially Baron Thrisk and Magma Incarnate like combined, and a little bit extra only if you're at max stats. So I'd personally prefer just using 1 Baron Thrisk, and I normally go with medium on this. So you can go with like heavy head and medium shoulders, or whatever weight you get. And where is the other bit? Ruska. What shoulders? So Impen and Impen. So I've gone with heavy on the helmet, heavy chest, medium shoulders, light waist, medium, medium, medium. So this is mainly more medium, and that's simply because the medium armor passives are better than the light armor ones. This agility is really good. The Windwalker gives you more stamina regen, but it reduces sprint. Athletics means you sprint fast. So this is all good for like kiting and PvP. The light armor ones just more pen, which is nice. Bit more crit chance. Spell resist, which is pointless. Magic recovery, which is nice. Reduce snares. Reduce sprint. Like, I find the medium ones are like better for PvP. You got more crit, which is more burst. You got more stamina regen, which is helpful to get out of problems. You got cheaper roll dodges as well, and more movement speed. Like, it just, medium's better. Plus, you don't take bonus damage, which you do on light. Skill wise, we're going to change our spammable this time. So let me get the all the script stuff. So we're just going to reload the UI quickly. And then if you did want to see a different build, by the way, just put a comment in the chat or do the poll. For the spammable, one of the best ones is Willed Soul, which I've shown last patch. And before I was using physical damage with Resurgence. And then I was using Breach. Really good still. This is still really, really good. The issue is, though, that you don't get enough stam back, so you do need to run more stam recovery to like fund this now. The advantage, though, is that this gives you minor breach, major breach. Because minor breach procs from Saundered, which is this physical damage, And so you can get minor and major breach on your spammable, which is amazing. I personally am going to go with shock damage. And I'm probably going to go class mastery. Now, this will give me more damage per hit on my spammable. And so I would recommend using this and just stick with normal mag regen. It's easier to play. Having done like 1v1s and stuff with this, this was easier to use. So I would recommend using that as your spammable for this patch. If you don't have the class mastery, then use the physical one instead until you do get it and just run an extra stand regen glyph. You then want crystal fragments. Oh, not crystal weapons, sorry. Let me change that quick. So I'm just going to go over and change this. Oh, that's cool. I didn't realise I did that. We're going to go crystal frags. There we go. So crystal frags, we're going to keep that still. We're going to go for our big shield, conjured ward, hardened ward. We're going to go for streak still, because streak is still really good. I'm still going to suggest that you get mage guild, because the inner light is very, very good. It's a crit chance, plus it's also max magicka, which like stacks with how much we stack it. So inner light there. And then if you can get meteor, and then shooting star or ice comet are really good. But you mainly use this if you want just for this extra magicka here. So again, we're like really stacking that magicka. On the back bar, we're going to use Bound Aegis, which is just a passive buff. We're going to go and use Crit Surge. Let me just put my Aegis here. Now, this is where you have to make a choice. With the monster sets, you could do the regens that I've got here, which is really nice. But you then have to run Lightning Form and Bound a Storm. If you did this, your only heal that you can then run, because you do need to run, in my opinion, Dark Conversion, is that you don't really have a good like heal over time. So Hardened Ward is great, but you then like lack that heal. So you can't use that Vigor Shield, which is you can currently do. So Haunting Curse here. Overload on the back bar, because you can toggle this and carry it front bar. Energy Overload, just more sustain. It's amazing. If you did this like setup will give you much more sustain without any like procs. So if I buff up, I'll show you. There, sorry about that. You see what 2k mag recovery without even like trying. Now the thing that you will notice though is that we're going to have to like, manage our armor quite a lot. So I would recommend, like, if you're newer to PvP and you have access to this monster set instead, to go with Mighty Tudor. So monster masks, Mighty Tudor. This gives you your armor buff all the time. And then if you have this, you go with heavy and medium still. So heavy helmet, medium shoulder. If you did this, you then free up a space for a scribe skill. And you can use contingency with healing or shield. Shield lasts 8 seconds, so you can pre-buff with this, which is quite nice. This you can't pre-buff with. So I prefer the shield personally. You then go with Gladiator's Tenacity, 8% damage reduction, amazing. And you go with Intellect. If you did this, you can end up getting similar numbers like for sustain, was on 2k with our thing up. So let me just put this on. So 1966. So you can see we're just under 2,000. So it's very similar, but you need to use a lot of scribe skills for this to work. The advantage is that you don't have to maintain your armor buffs. So that is just something to factor in, okay? Let's just fix all our glyphs now quickly. So try on the big pieces. That should be trainee. Magical on all the small pieces. And then try on the big ones. So this gives us 28,000 health by doing this. So we've got loads of health already before we even get into like our death dealers on and stuff. Now we're going to run all arcane jewelry. I'm going to run an extra spell damage on the glyph down there. So let's just get our jewelry glyphs. Magical harm. If you're newer to PvP though, do consider some regens. Like running 3 regen isn't terrible. It is pretty decent. So if you did this, I'll just show you the regen quick. And this is without CP. So front bar we have 2.2k, back bar 2.1k. So loads of recovery. Now we're going to change our weapon to be sharpened in a moment. If you get more used to go with 1 damage, that can help for just killing power. We want this to be sharpened and this to be defending. Sorry. So the Inferno Lightning Staff, sorry, is going to be sharpened, and then the Inferno Staff is going to be defending. Now you could use an Ice Staff instead if you wish. For the champion points, it's quite straightforward. You get all the yellow ones like usual. You then move over to these ones, and you want to go and pick up the light attack one, which seems a bit weird. But for a sorcerer, a lot of your damage comes from weapons expert because your overload gets buffed by this. So this is really good for overload. We're then going to use deadly aim, single target damage, master at arms, direct damage, and then 1 ironclad. For the red ones, a celerity is worth considering. That movement speed is quite nice. You don't have a boundless storm on this setup, so you do want the extra speed. You want to go with Bastion. This is a phenomenal basic huge shield. Sustained by Suffering and Pain's Refuge are the other 2 I'd recommend. If you are playing in a server that's laggy, do consider Slippery. That does help you quite a lot. So this is the Sorc. So what you'll see at the moment is we have essentially 28,600 health. Loads of health already. We got 5k pen. But we also have Major Breach, so 6k on top of that, so that's 11,000 pen. It's not the most amount of pen in all honesty. So the way we fix this is by adding the Lovermunders or the Mage. Now I found, having tested both, ironically, because the Lovermundus gives you more pen, which is slightly more damage, there isn't a huge damage difference between going with the Lover or the Mage. Adds damage on the target. So I found the Mage was just better because it gives you more Magicka, which means you have bigger shields. Bigger shields, bigger heals. Your damage is slightly less, So if you find that you need a little bit more killing power, do you consider using the lover? I'm going to jump into Imperial City quickly just so you can see this shield, because that is a big factor. So the big change for this one is we're now using Shock and Soul. It's literally 13,000 on a spammable. It's actually disgusting. Like, it is such a strong spammable. Robert says, I like the other morph, but 6 seconds is too short. Yeah, 6 seconds is quite short. The regen's nice, though. So I'm just going up here just to kind of show you the things that we have. And what's also nice with this is that with Death Dealers, our damage scales higher and our max health goes up. So I'm just going to let my Death Dealers proc full. And then I'll show you what the max like shields and stuff looks like, okay? So our regen front bar is 2k. Back bar, 2k. With a potion, with using regen food. So let's put on our buffs. We have 2.2k, which is pretty decent. So that's kind of, and it goes up to 2.6k with the CP. If you don't have regen food and you do go with the pickle bowl, you do get more max stats. And with potions, obviously potions will push this even higher. So 2k there. When we get some debuffs on us, it will go up a bit higher, 2.2k. We're just going to get rid of some of the ads so I can show the tooltips a bit easier. Okay, so our Death Dealers is fully on. We have a 15,000 shield and a 8.6k heal on that, so that's a good sized shield. Our spammable Field Curious is 11,300 plus 2,700. So that's 13, that's almost 14,000 that is, on a spammable. Like, this setup is absolutely disgusting. Robert says Vigor and Ward. So I use this as a pseudo Vigor. Because that 8% mitigation is basically better than Minor Resolve. And you have Minor Resolve from Bound Aegis anyway. Oh, that's the boss. I was wondering why this thing was hitting quite hard. But with this, we've got over 31k health. Obviously, don't do this, just a little tip. Like, don't spam this unless you're on a 1-bar build. Your spammable hits really hard. Our frag just... Our frag is 22,000. So it's a pretty decent frag. And our curse is... Let me just heal up quickly. Our curse is 15k. So we've got a good amount of burst on this. So I'm gonna let this boss kill me. But you can see like we're really tanky. And for people curious, this is all on the PTS. Okay, so if you go in, like, oh, why did he just lose 500,000 Telvar or something stupid like that? This is on PTS. We're going to return back to our thing, and I'll show the superstar. And then you can get an idea of kind of how to make this, okay? I will have a look at the poll in a sec and see what class people want to see next. So if you have a preference, then do take part in the poll or put a comment, and I'll do my best to obviously showcase what I would use. Okay, so for the Sorcerer for next patch, I would recommend using this, okay? Mightytude and Helmet and Shoulder, Wretched, Crafty, Death Dealers, Trainer, usual armor. The big change is we're going to change our spammable to Shock and Soul. You saw that when we're in combat it's 14,000, which for a spammable is actually disgusting. Plus it's Major Breach. Everything else we keep pretty much the same. I use the Warden contingency still, which is Shield, Gladiator's Tenacity, and the Regen. The Gladiator's Tenacity, by the way, is on sale currently in the Scholarium. So if you haven't got that already, go and buy it. You can buy it for gold. It's really, really good. The AoE part of this also works for allies, so the 8% reduction applies to allies as well. So you can use this in a group, give them a big shield and also damage reduction and regens, which means you're actually useful. Like you can streak into your teammate and put on this. So I normally like streak into my teammate, cast this and roll dodge. So if you do that combo, so I'd like streak in, swap bar, and then do that. My teammate will get the 8% reduction and a shield, which will means they're more likely to stay alive. The shield is essentially about 6k in PvP, so it's not huge, but it's enough to block a spammable and a little bit. So it's enough to help keep somebody alive. Plus that damage reduction. The Munders, I would go with the Mage. Having tested the Mage and the Lover, the damage is very similar between the two. Just because of how high we can push that base stat. We got the Bound Aegis boosting at the Inner Light, the Ice Comet, the Sorcerer passive. So this is being boosted massively, which is why it's so close to the Lover Mundus in damage. Vampire-wise, you can go stage 3, which will give you more mitigation. With the changes with Vampire this patch coming, Undeath is now 15% mitigation max. The rest of it is like the same as before. I think it's still worth it, is what I'm kind of leaning towards, I'm not going to lie. My kind of gut feeling is this is still good. At half health, it's still 7.5% damage reduction. At 30% health, it's about 10% damage reduction. So what that actually means is that that is Buffer of the Swift. So if I go to here, for example, it's a light armor set. It's a PvP set. Armor. I don't know why I got him trainee. Cyrodiil set. Light Cyrodiil. Buffer of the Swift. This is 10%. This is a defensive set. The Vampire Passive at 30% health roughly is 10% damage reduction, which is this set. It's still worth it. If you're going to be executed, this will really stop you from being killed quickly. So I still think it's worth being a vampire, even with the nerf. But I will test it. So I'm going to lean on a yes, be a vampire stage 3. But I'll add the caveat that I might be wrong. I don't think I am, but in all honesty, I think it's still worth it. But I just being cautious, okay? Robert says, do you think people will add % damage reduction sets to make up for the undeath nerf? No. People run undeath because it's just 3 damage reduction. People will still run the same build because people are lazy. Like, it's the way in which this game is. Builds don't make or break massively in PvP between patches often. More often than not, you can run the same build that you did from last patch or the patch before, even a year ago. Clever Alchemist, Wretched Vitality is a really good setup. Clever Alchemist, anything else is still a really good setup. You know, people were going to run what they run. They will then see for themselves do they need more defense or not. If they need defense, what they'll probably do, in my opinion, is they would probably go into their CP and put on things like Fortified, and they'll probably go into here and put on Ironclad if they don't have it, or Jeweler's Rebuff. If they have these already, they'll probably add on the Focus Mending for just more healing. More healing is defense. It just helps you get out of trouble. Or they might go and slot on Fight and Finesse, which is more crit healing. So again, it's more. So they'll tweak things slightly without having to drop a full set. Because dropping a full set is a huge amount of damage loss. And more often than not, people will probably run, in my opinion, they will probably go Rallying Cry if they were to go and like change a set. And if they're already using Rallying Cry, they've got a good damage defense set anyway. So, yeah. The other thing they could do, which is not common, but it is worth considering, if you go with like full protective, it's 3000 armor, it's minor resolve, it's really good. Like this is really, really like ignored. This is quite solid. Or just go with more speed. Speed is damage reduction because people can't hit you. So there's ways to get around the nerf, and I still think it's worth it even with the nerf. So yeah, I think the Sulk's finished in my opinion. I don't think I'd change this. But this is probably the best you're going to get. It's got sustain, it's got damage, it's got mobility, it's got defense. I do have a build with the Esoteric Greaves, which I'll probably show at the end of the stream if I get a chance, depending on time. I'm going to switch now because the poll is quite clear, like Necro. A few people have asked a few times. So we're going to make a Necromancer and see, can we make it work? My feeling is yes, in all honesty. I think Necro's pretty decent. Like it's one of those weird ones that it's got a lot of hate because it doesn't play how people want it to play. I'm going to go with more of a traditional Necromancer. So rather than using dots, which is fun, like a dot, I love my dot crow. I absolutely love it. It's really, really fun. I want to go with like blast bones, blow people up build. So more of a burst build. So Dark Elf, because you want to be a vampire. If you're playing in melee, you need the Undeath, in my opinion. Dark Elf is the best race for this. We're going to call it Necro Unified. Robert says, is the Dot Crow build on the channel? Yes, the Dot Crow's on the channel. I think there's like 2 or 3 gameplay videos and a 0-1VX, which was done by Wicked Hits, who plays on Xbox, if I recall. But he run almost an identical setup. Just swap in Dragakin for Deadly. You get similar damage. The difference is Dragakin is more damage but less defense. Deadly is more damage but slightly more defense but less damage. I prefer Dragakin because it's just a lot more damage. For the Necro, I would recommend looking at kind of how you want to build it. So are you going to go range or melee? Because that's really important. I know that sounds a bit stupid, but Necro has some real big issues, in my opinion. And so we're going to, rather than try and fix those, we're going to go into scribing quite heavily on this. Because I think we lack, you lack a stun. You've got a burst skill. Blast Bones hits really hard when it lands. It's pretty good. But you lack a stun and you lack a kind of enough pressure. It's a bit weird. So I think we could probably work around it this patch, in all honesty. So we're going to quickly get all the scribe and stuff. And then I'm going to quickly just grab the... This is not like a scientific way of just getting built quickly. It's just give me a rough idea of all the numbers. So, and that helps me kind of see how viable a thing will be. There. We'll quickly just grab this. So I've got to reload the UI just to get rid of that bug. And then, yeah, with the Necro, we need to think quite hard about how we can get this to work. Let me just put a really quick poll. Do people want Stam or Mag? And melee or range, because that makes quite a big difference. Hey, oh, because it says Stam. Yeah, gotta be Stam. It has no class execute. See, Warden has the same problem. And it doesn't have enough burst without it. But there are ways around it, in my opinion. So you could go melee Magicka, and you could probably get around it with using the Vampire Spammable, because that hits really hard and it's got good scaling if you build it right. So I'm wondering whether we go down that route and go for more of a Magicka themed melee build. So it's kind of like a Stam Necro, but we're using the Magicka the Vampire Spammable. Or we go down the hybrid and use a bit of both. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Let's get the Vampirs and I'll show you. Consumables. So does that increase my... I've not used that before. It keeps it on stage 1. So I'm just going to put everything into magic for now, and I will tweak the points in a moment. So the Vampire Spammable is really good. So it deals up to 33% more based on your missing health. Now that's just the base bit. The problem is you can't really rely on that. But what you can rely on is the crit on Arterial Burst. If you use your ability whilst under half health, it critically strikes. That's pretty reliable, I found, because you're often under half health in PvP. This is really good, but you have to use this as an execute. And again, this is weird because you have to use health. So I normally prefer this. I find it's easier to sustain. Now, for context, if you want to just check I'm going to put on some other skills to show you like the other values that it has. So you can kind of get an idea of where this sits in line with other spammables. Where's Sigic Order? And then there's... Let's get... that. Okay, so this is just looking at how it sits in line with other spammables. Flurry is 4 hits, so it's basically 8,000 damage. So this is 8k melee. This is 6-3 range. This is 6-1 range. This is 7-8 melee channel. This is 7,000 plus hemorrhage. So you find that this kind of sits in the middle of the pack. This is slightly higher, but this is instant. So this you can make work. The pole's going to go in stand melee or mag ranged. I might do both because I do like Necro. I find for a stand one it's a bit easier to build because you got access to Executioner, which is amazing. That's just really, really good. So we could probably do a bit of both. I would use Executioner. Let's get Blast Bones. I'm putting my skills quickly. That goes there. Where does Willed Soul sit as a spammable? Willed Soul should sit at this 6.1k. 6.1, yeah, literally the same. So you can see like a lot of the stuff, but if we did Magicka, I'd probably use this because it gives us the stun, which we don't have. The reason you can't kill people on Magicka Warden and on Necromancer is because you can't stun them. In my opinion, that is the big issue that you lack. An Execute is a problem, that is a big problem, but the stun is the main issue. If you can't stun them when they're low health, you can't finish them off. And in most cases, that's when people roll and heal. Warden is really, really like prone for that. You get somebody low health and you can't stun them, and they roll dodge away and they heal up, and it's really annoying. When I added this into my Warden, I was getting kills so much easier because I could do some burst, wait for the second Deep Fish to come and stun, and do like Deep Fisher Ice Reach, and they can't dodge it, and you get a kill, even if there's no Execute. So this is a really big advantage. That is really worth looking at. So yeah, that it's the same spammable as the other ones. I love the idea of this, but I don't think it's particularly like effective. But I love the idea of Skeletal Mage because it gives you a major sorcery now. The Archer obviously increases damage. Arcanist is an AoE. It's very expensive. I personally think that you're better just using Entropy, in all honesty, and go down to this one. It's a dot and it does a damage. So it gives you the same buff. It's cheaper to use. It's better, basically. Just the Corpse one is quite nice. It's just like nice thematically. Armor-wise, and healing, we're going to go with Resistant Flesh. The Spirit Mender I think might be worth looking into. I'm going to just check its value fully. This obviously gives us minor resolve. So you get major and minor resolve now, which is amazing. And I'll probably go with Summoner's Armor, because we got the stun anyway now. I'm kind of leaning towards Mag for people curious at the moment. And I will probably make a stand one as well. So I'm just thinking we got spammable, burst skill. We have a passive which is down here. This is essentially it's essentially your Execute. So if you've got a good crit chance and a good crit damage, this is your Execute for free. Like, this is worth considering. So for that reason alone, this could be worth considering. Because is it 10%? Yes, 10% for each one. That's huge. I'm gonna go for this. I'm gonna put this here because that's 30%. So that's because that if we get someone below 25% health, our next hit will be a crit. Will probably kill them. No, we're gonna get rid of Flame Skull because that's awful. So we'd have 20% there. If I'm going melee, we're probably going to have to use Dawnbreaker. So what I'm doing is I'm thinking about what I need in the build. I need Burst. So Dawnbreaker and Blast Bones is a good burst combo. Because you can cast Blast Bones, you can cast Dawnbreaker, that will stun them. Then you can go for your Arterial Burst whilst they're stunned, which means you've got 3 skills hitting at once, which is a lot of damage. I'm going to make that scribe, that stun, I think. Willed Soul, stun. Once every 3 seconds, increase your health, magic and stamina by 2% for each corpse within. Just looking at what options, the middle one. The cruelty is not really great unless it's on niche builds. Potency is like, yeah. Resurgence is pretty decent still. I probably go Resurgence, makes it cheaper. We've got Major Defiler already. We've got regens. I'm just looking for like killing power. Because we would probably run... I'll put this like this for now, but I might change the bottom one and go with like the cowardice. It is, but it's 450 damage every second to someone with 30,000 health. 450 damage a second is not going to kill them. That's my opinion. Unless you really sack Oblivion damage and you just sit on them constantly with Gerals, then maybe. We're going to probably need it in a light. That's crit there. I'm just... What I'm trying to do is to think about how can we get our crits high enough so then when they are low health we can get those kills. Because the ultimates that a Necro has suck. They are really bad. This misses all the time. This is pointless. And this is just... What are you doing? It's too expensive. Now, if we're going melee, we could use like Berserker Strike, ironically. Go for Onslaught, that's quite cheap. The target ignores the target's resistance and grants you Physical Pen. So I don't think Blast Bones buffs benefits from this. Because it's for your direct damage. I think that was the issue with why I didn't use this last time. And Lacerate's not good enough, doesn't do enough. I'm just thinking of the ultimate we can have next. Everyone always hypes up Colossus. It's fun. It's just not good. This used to be amazing. They nerfed this. This is really bad now. It's either down to Dawnbreaker or Meteor. I'm probably going to keep Dawnbreaker. Does Meteor... That's just max magic and regen. Dawnbreaker is so much cheaper. Like, so much cheaper. Yeah, we're going to stick with Dawnbreaker. Okay, that's the front bar done, I think. I'm happy with this. On demand's done. Let's put on susceptibility. You probably... PvP tier list. I think Sulk's top. Sulk's just top of everything. It's really, really good. So we're in 4.2 health to the target, 2 allies near them. Also, that's times up by 4, so 4, 8, 12, 16,000 towards Vigor. So what I'm looking at, just for people curious, is I'm kind of... When I go through a build, I look at like skill categories is the best way of describing it. If you don't have the right categories, you can't make it work. So you need to have spammable, burst skill, stun, or execute, or both if you can. Dot, if you can, or execute. Then you have like a passive damage buff, or some kind of flex spot. You then have armor buff, burst steal, heal over time, movement skill, debuff. If you build that kind of way, most builds will work. You have the skills you need for most fights. So I'm just thinking, like, I don't know if this will be quick enough healing because it's 8 seconds and this is 5. And we're going to lack some healing anyway because of this stupid defile. Like, there's not a lot of healing reduction. And yes, one of our passives offsets it. But it's not great. And obviously, Tether used to be really good. But again, the heal's not quick enough now. So this is what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about kind of ways forward. We'll put on a temporal guard for the ult. And I find going for skills actually makes it easier than going with sets. Now I've got an idea of what I'm going to do to make this work. Yeah, but it cleanses the defile, but when you're using the defile, you're off the burst heal, you're often spamming it. So you're not going to go burst heal, cleanse, burst heal, cleanse. You're normally going to go burst heal, roll dodge, burst heal. It's not a lot of healing reduction anyway, but it's just something that's a bit like, okay, armor wise, we're going to go with this monster set. This is like a, we're going to go with Master Lock. Heavy head, medium shoulder. Now I will take off the thing in a moment because I'm just thinking mythic item. You was considering Shattered Fate and Essence Thief with 2H for stamina growth. Shattered's really good. I really like Shattered, and Essence is nice. I would worry about your stam sustain. That would be my only concern. The damage would be there 100%. You won't have the sustain though to get away or to kite. And with Necro needing a bit of like charge time for its burst combo with Dawnbreaker, Blast Bones, Dizzying Swing, for example, you might not be able to get that to land reliably, and then you don't have the sustain to get away if it doesn't. That would be my concern. I'll probably go with like Essence and Wretched. Go back bar Wretched Vitality, front bar Essence Thief. And then if you did something like Death Dealer's Feet or Saint and Seducer's Mythic with Balorg and one trainee, you'd have really, really high bet. Magic Full, Ranger Full. I will make a ranged Magcro in a sec. I'm kind of making more of a melee mag in a moment. Marslock. I'm going with Death Dealers. So I want to just check something out with the class mastery as well. So that's part of why I'm going Death Dealers. But the Mythic you can probably tweak though. This is really fun. This is really good. I'm probably going to use Wretched Rally, I think. For this. I think that's going to be the most... Or do I use Rally? No. I'm leaning between Wretched Rally or Wretched Essence. Now, Essence Thief is really good. The other one we could use is Dragon's Appetite, I think it is. That's a crafted set. Let's have a look at that, because that scales really well with max resource. It's just whether we can get the max resource high enough to make it worthwhile. There's our wretched. So with like Necro, you have to think much more about it because it's like such a weird class. This has been my burst, by the way. For people curious, how am I going to help my burst, my execute? This is really strong. This is really OP. You may want to look at this org as well if you're using more of a dot build. So if you've got like elemental susceptibility, double dot poisons, blast bands, you would have like 50-60% on this already, which obviously it becomes really, really high really fast. Let's look at Essence. I think it's classed, but it's from Imperial City though, isn't it? So I don't know where they would put that. It's one of those weird ones. It's like the other ones. Oh, that's it. I was trying to find where they keep it. Is where I was in there. Let me have a look where Essence Thief comes from. It is very late. Just, I thought it came from this white gold tower. It's a dungeon. Top says, I'm still jumping from class to class. Not sure which one I want to stay with. I'm struggling after all my time off to feel comfortable. Arcanist next patch looked really good. I don't know if you saw the Arcanist that I set up a bit earlier, but it's really solid. So it was a dungeon set. A white gold tower, apparently. Is it considered base game now? I wonder if they like consider it putting the base game now. I don't know if it's Essence Thief. I'll show it in a sec before when I wrap up. I'll show the thing again. So I feel like I'm getting mad. I'm looking for Essence Thief. It's a dungeon set. DLC dungeon set. Heavy armor dungeon sets. Is that not on here? So I'm just going to Google it again. I'm just checking if I'm not being mad. DLC Imperial City. I thought it was heavy, unless it's medium. I didn't think it was medium, but I might be wrong. Oh, it is medium. Oh, that's easier. For some reason, I thought it was heavy. I was like convinced it was a heavy armor set. So yeah, so dealing damage with a light or heavy that draws essence from the enemy, pulls it near them. It gives you health and stamina and increases your damage by 10%. This is really good. This is really, really good. So I think we're going to run this. We need a set that basically gives us damage and defense, and there's either this or Rallying Cry. Those are the two options, in all honesty. There's not many like this. So I think we're going to have to run this. We'll go for just grab all of this. So get some jewelry as well. just going to think about how I would min-max this afterwards. I'm going to go for Maul. I didn't mention it in the other bits. I did say I would, but I forgot. Earlier on, I mentioned about using an Inferno Staff. The Inferno Staff is for this passive here, heavy weapons. The Inferno Staff Trifocus, sorry. When you do a heavy attack, you get a free dot. That's basically why you use a Fire Staff. For the 2H, the reason I use a 2H over dual wield is this passive here, Battle Rush. Increase your stam regen by 30% when you kill somebody. This is insane. But this is ridiculously good. You lose a tiny bit of damage, but if you get a kill, getting a 30% stam regen, which stacks with a potion, is ridiculously strong. So this is really good for kiting, because you can go burst somebody down and then move around, and you've got so much stam coming back in really quick, especially with Wretched. So I prefer 2H personally, and most of these dual wield passives for people like unaware. Ruffian gives 15% damage when attacking immobilized, stuns or silenced enemies while using dual wield attacks. So you only dual wield gets this passive. So dual wield skills get this, nothing else. You reduce the cost of dual wield skills. You increase the weapon and spell damage of your offhand. This buffs every damage, but this again is dual wield abilities. So this Ruffian's a bit of a weird one. It kind of only procs primarily on dual wield skills, which is why it's weird. So I prefer 2H. You get basically the same stuff. You can do AoE cleave, you've got cost reduction, you've got this heavy attack into skill. Now this only works on other 2H skills typically now, but it's the Battle Rush we want. This is really, really good. So we're going to go with an Essence Maul. And we're going with Wretched Vitality Back Bar. So it's a crafted set right at the bottom. Light, medium and heavy. I'm going to go heavy legs. Light sash. Medium hands and some weapons. Probably going to use an Ice Staff. Or an Inferno. Probably Inferno actually, because I want that free dot. You need as much damage as you can on a Necro, and that's going to help. So what I'm doing now is I'm just optimizing like the weights and stuff to make sure we get as much as we can out of this. And this should be essence. So that turns on. That turns off. Okay. Food wise, let's go get some food on us. Jewelry, I want to go with 2 damage and 1 regen. Probably 2 regen actually, 2 magic recovery. And then I'm probably going to go with Live for Foulness. That'll give us minor defile. So minor defile and major defile in the build. Poisons would be a good choice too. I want Prismatic on all of this. So for people curious, what I'm doing is just kind of refining the build and just think kind of what stats would we need to make it kind of work. We'll sort all the traits in a moment. let's go with food. Let's get the lava munders just for the moment. So yeah, I'm just kind of like thinking out loud as such, kind of how we can push this. But I think this is probably what close to what I'm going to run. Just looking at the numbers and stuff, I think this is like the best we're going to get, whilst giving it like a mix of what we need. We probably need some swift as well, because we're going to be quite slow, and that's often what gets you killed in PvP. Like, you can't escape. So that's blast bones. That's our vampire. That's, we're gonna go for crit. I want to go for. Let me put that on here. Now, one of the issues that Necro has, in my opinion, is healing. So we're gonna run focus mending, and I'm probably gonna go with ironclad. Then we've basically got 3 for healing. We've got healing here. We've got healing here, crit heals. And we've got defense there. This is also slight damage too. So we've kind of got like 1.5 damage and sort of 3.5, 2.5 defense. I think that's kind of the best we'll need. Just going to get celerity because you need the movement speed. Sustained by suffering and survival instincts and pain's refuge. Sustained by suffering and pain's refuge. The survival instincts could be changed to bastion against sorcerers, or I'll probably go something like slippery in all honesty, or even consider the armor. Okay, so let's tweak our stats now, because our stats aren't in the right place yet. Our pen's okay. We've got major breach on top. We've got 14k pen. Yeah, 14.5k pen. What's our regen on? 1400. Let's put on our rally. Let me have a look. Oh, let me just change my weapon traits quickly before I forget. That should be sharpened. That should be defending, sorry. And that should be sharpened. So front bar we have, yeah, we've got 17k pen. We've got a good amount of pen now. Let's put on our armor. Decent armor, not the best crit resist though. Let's tweak that. The reason we're using so much heavy is because we're going to run quite a lot of it in reinforced. So on the legs and helmet and chest are worth running reinforced. They're pretty good. And the rest I'd probably run in pen or mix of well fitted. I'm probably going to go with some more well fitted. And then what I'm going to do to offset the, because I don't have enough crit resist, I'm aware of that. We don't have enough crit resist there. Is that if we ran the different ghost, it will give us 10% damage reduction. So what I'm kind of doing is like thinking of these scenarios I'll get myself in, and then how to like get around it. If that makes sense. The armor buff, armor buff. Got regen on. 2k regen, that's not too bad. That's the essence here. So that's our damage buff. Just so I'm kind of thinking about healing now and kind of how we can get around that. We've obviously got this here, and there's a healing version of this. So it's this one here. That does proc that though, which means we'd have a really high uptime with that passive. What's that? 8k. It's... What's our block? 12k. Let's go change those to infuse, sorry. I have 2 swift I am and 1 infused. So I don't think we need the extra sustain, but the speed will be quite helpful. Because when we sprint, we move at this speed now with race against time, which is really, really good. Because we could then get away really fast. Which is what we're probably going to have to do a lot of. 10k. Let me put on my damage buff. 12-1. Yeah, we're just having a little look. Think about. Obviously, I know we've got Masterlock with us to help. So that's 6,400. That damage is increased for each negative effect. So we want poisons on this bar. So that's 2 there plus poison there. That's 3 there. 3, 6, 7 there. So that's already 70% boost. %80 boost. Yes, we're going to get about an 80% boost at all times on this, pretty much. So when we put, so that should be pretty decent actually, because that's essentially 12,000. So it'll be about 10,000. It will every 4 seconds, which is pretty decent of like extra proc, and we can obviously boost that with our essence thief. So let's get our essence thief on. Yes, that's 7,000, that is. What's our spam? And obviously this will go up more with our stats. So let's get our death dealers going. I've got hemorrhaging too, so that would also be ticking. Yeah, the sustain feels okay on this. So we've got a good amount of stam and bits with Death Dealers going. I think this is kind of where I'd probably keep this. This is more of a melee mag necro using a 2H. So yeah, just pretend it's a staff. This is probably what I'm going to run. Just, I think it's got enough sustain. I don't know about Vampire Stage 3 on this. I'd need to have a look into that. It's got burst. Because you've got the Blast Bones, Dawnbreaker, Stun, Arterial Burst combo. You'd also have Master Lock with this as well. So you could do something like Blast Bones, Heavy Attack, Dawnbreaker, Vampire Spammable, which will then all proc. And you'd also have the Master Lock ticking on them as well, which will get the crit boost because that can crit now. So then that could be quite a good burst combo. So although we lack an execute, we'd have a lot more like instant bang. And obviously if needed, we could obviously drop the stun for the execute and just use Dawnbreaker, but I'd like to keep the stun. I'm going to IC really quickly and just get a feel for how this feels. And then I'll have a look to see, can we make a ranged mag necro? And I think you could. You're going to have more issues, I think, with it, personally. I think melee has a bit more flexibility. And I think stam even more flexibility to make it viable. You can definitely see the Necro's taking a lot longer to set up though because of how complicated the class is. I just worry about my healing power. I don't think we've got enough healing power. Because it's only 5k, it's not big enough. It's quite easy to animation cancel those skills. Yeah, so that stun's quite nice in melee. So if you you cast Blast Bones on something. So you cast Blast Bones, then the stun. And then as it gets stunned, we do have the healing from this, which will help. It's not a lot of it, it's like 2k extra every couple seconds. So what I'm doing is just checking my sustain. My stam sustain is amazing. Yeah. For like a mag build, this is a lot of sustain. Well, that was quite good. And I know these are NPCs, but I'm just getting a feel for like how much can we push the sustain. Yeah, I think I'm happy with where this is. I was going to just find the boss around here and just check about the defense on it, because that's the one bit I'm a little bit worried about. Let's go find the boss. This is the arena one. You can't always find it, can it? We might need to just switch to the other district, just see if we can get a boss quickly. I want to just let a boss all like wail on this. Oh, there it is. To get an idea about the healing power, because that's the bit I'm worried about. Yeah, I don't think the healing power is strong enough. Like, I can fight this absolutely fine and I won't die to it. I think with good movement this is fine. But obviously I know he's like catching us. So we can obviously get around here. Yeah, I think the healing power is a little bit on the lower side than what I would like. It doesn't have a big, like, pardon my language, like an old crap button. So we're just going to see how we can get that any higher. I don't think there's an easy way, because we've got the CP in. Like, we can obviously push our damage higher, which is not a lot of damage, I know this, but we've got... But then we lose the sustain, which we need. Definitely a conundrum, innit? Because if this sounds silly, but if that burst still was like 14, 15,000, it would be viable. You need about a 7k burst still, you do. But I don't think this is high enough. Just curious what the scaling is on it. Yeah, I'm going to return back to the house, and then we'll do a mag one, stand one, in a sec. I think this is where I'd start with it. So this is where I'll probably start with my Magicka, like melee necro. The damage is there. I don't have an issue about the damage. I have a concern over its healing power. And that, we can try a different Mundus, which I don't think will make a big difference. It's speed and healing, the ritual. So we could use all the steed. We could change this to the burst. Well, let's see what that burster is quickly. Maybe we drop the stun there and just use Dawnbreaker. This is why going to the IC like that and just get loads of ads hit you is quite helpful, because it will simulate the healing power that you'd need in like a more outnumbered fight. So having a boss summon loads of stuff and just wail on you, you have to self-heal quite quick. And if you're not getting the big heals that you need to bounce back, you can't get the counter damage in. What this bit is a heal, 10k. So it has the same heal value as that, but it doesn't get the defile. So we could do like healing, resurgence, and vitality, and we get also more healing as well. So we don't lose that 10%. I'm going to try this quick. We're going to forego the stun for a moment. Zombie says, I've got the Saint Seducer last night. Will be interesting to try it out. I think it's one of the ones where it's kind of like hyped up. So that's 10, 12. So 12 non-crit. Okay, what is the other one? That's crit. So let the vitality go off. 11. So there's not a huge difference actually. Okay, we're going to keep the stun. Yeah, I think the Saint Seduce is good. I think it's a little bit kind of like, oh my goodness, it's amazing, but I don't think it necessarily is. I'm probably over class mastery. The extra health, 10 seconds of more max resource is nice. I'm probably gonna go with the vitality. Having used this now, we need healing power, and having this will be like a. So this is like a pseudo heal buff. It's a stun, but it also gives us more resource and more healing, which is helpful because we lack healing. That might help fix it actually. This is where scribing is a really powerful system. Yeah, we've got loads of corpses down. What I want to test is how much a boost we get. Elon says, I'm using Saint Seducer with Karamax on my crow, and it really is not enough to fix the class like I hoped it would be. The class needs burst. It has burst, but you need it to be reliable. You need a stun. So, do you have scribing, Star? And I'm gonna quickly just go grab a drink. So, I'll just be a moment. I'll put on like a quick AFK thing. So I'll be a couple of minutes while I just get a drink. Hello. Sorry about that. I am back. Had one up because love my Nightblade. So, if you've just tuned in, what we've been doing is going through and setting up builds ready for next patch. We've done Arcanist, we've done Sorcerer, been working on a Necro, which has been more of a challenge to say the least. I've kind of gone with a melee mag crow using some like stam skills that you'd have on 2H, but generally magic damage skills, so it's more mag focused. And yeah, I think I've got something. I'm just thinking out loud. Like, our stam sustain is really good. This is such a cool idea, but I don't think this Arcanist is worth it. And we need healing, so it will make sense if we go with Rally. It's damage, it's also stam sustain. It's also a burst heal. This little of extra healing power is going to be really noticeable. So I think that's probably the smart play here. So what we then have, we have obviously open up like this. That's a 2 dots on already. We can obviously got our Essence Thief here. And we can do like stuff like that. With the double dot poisons. We also have Mask Lock with this too. So I think this is the play. I don't think the Class Mastery is worth it, by the way. The Torment is quite fun, but it's just too low. And the Cruelty is... Yeah. So I'll probably go with Sustain. But I'll keep the Vitality. So then this way, we still got like something useful. Even if they can't be stunned, we still get the healing boost. Star Elon says... Yeah, but I can't sacrifice the bar space for it. If you want to make the class good, drop the class skills. To be fair, actually, if you look at how many class skills I got, we have, ready? Vampire Spammer Pool, class skill, Scribing, 2H, Mage Guild, Fighters Guild. We have 1 class skill on this front bar. On the back bar, we have a bit more. We've got Armor Buff, which is Armor Buff. Burst Heal, Spirit Ghost, probably Vigor. I'm thinking maybe Vigor. But I'm not quite sure yet. Vigor could be nice. Race Against Time, Susceptibility. So we've got basically 4 class skills in this build. For the Superstar, this is what I'm currently thinking. This is more of a Magicka Necromancer for melee. So we're going to be focusing our damage on Dawnbreaker into Blast Bones with Master Lock behind it, which will help give that a bit of oomph. This is almost 7,000, and then it goes up to like 100% when we got all the debuffs, so it's like 14k, which is a really good proc set. So this will help really carry the damage that we might otherwise lack, especially with no execute. We would then have healing from Resistant and Rally and also Ghost. So we've got 2 burst heals and this. The Ghost might be made into Vigor though, if I need to heal over time. I could also put Vigor instead of Inner Light. Like the Savagery is nice, but the crit is also good. I'm just thinking though, we don't need the max Magicka really, do we? So we're going to go with Camo Hunter actually, because we get the weapon damage passive, which is what we actually need. We also get the Banish the Wicked, but we get this. This is the key bit, which will help with our other damage. And then if we hit them from behind, we always get Berserk. So I think that's probably a better one. And we still get the crit chance. So 16,000 pen, 25% crit. Okay resistance. We've got the Ghost as well, which is 10% mitigation. I do think we have to be a Vampire Stage 3 though, just having seen all this. So I'm going to go back into Icy. Just do the same thing against the same boss. And then we'll see how much easier is it to survive with this, like, just change of skills and vampire. I want to eat him. Okay, so we've got our vampire back up. And then we're going to go into Imperial City just quickly. And I think this, I might be wrong, but I think this is probably more of a viable Necro. I won't know until I actually try it fully, but this is my initial thoughts. As somebody who knows the class well, you're welcome to say otherwise, but I think I've tried to cover all the bases I can, as much as I can, by adding sets and stuff and scribing to try and fix the woes of the class. Yeah, you notice the ult costs them more. Yeah, so having that extra, that major vitality is quite helpful. This feels a lot more like sturdier. Yeah, because I can do that. That is, yeah, that's a good amount of like recovery. That is. Yeah, I feel like this is okay actually, because I can do that to get away if I needed to. Yeah, so yeah, I've got enough like speed and ability to move around. So if I'm moving well, we should be able to go and drop stuff like that. Obviously, with a player, they would have a bit more like movement and stuff. Yeah, my sustain is very good actually. I probably could drop a bit of sustain for damage. Yeah, and then we'll reload with 9.6k crits. Alright, we'll let this boss kill us. but I think that was better. I don't know what you guys think. Do you think that seemed better? Like I felt I could bounce back much more than I could before with those changes. We're going to just switch back to our house. And I'll save this because I think this is what I'm going to run next patch. For like the Magicka Necromancer for melee. Top August, that seemed pretty good. I think I'm trying to give it enough, like, of everything. It felt more, the sustain felt amazing. Like I could move around and I could spam this. Bear in mind that this goes up more and more the lower my health gets. And my death dealers will put this up to about 9k when we're in PvP. So it's kind of like similar spammable damage to what you'd have on a range one, but you can spam this, they can't dodge it, and it's dirt cheap. This is like so cheap to spam, and the hemorrhaging status is what makes this really nice. So if you look, that hemorrhaging is ticking for 1100 on that, so it is a lot of extra damage. Let me just go and superstar this. Star of Elon says it works as a setup, but we better on another class. Yeah, I'm not going to dispute that. I think this is what I'm going to run. I'm going to screenshot this more from my notes, and I will make a video of this, and I will test it on live when it drops. I think this is like the best you're going to get. We could obviously swap Death Dealers for Mark, and if you don't have Death Dealers, or Saint and Seduce, which is a mythic of choice. But 2 Swift felt really good, because that speed was very noticeable. And obviously when you get snared in PvP a lot, it is going to help out loads. So yeah, I think that's kind of worth looking into. I'm going to just quickly put down I've got a table already actually. It is this one. Vamp Crawl. Oh, is there a good vampire one? Or something like Teeth. There, that's perfect. Look at that. They get Vamp Crow. Okay, so I think that's... I like this. This felt good. You could swap Essence Fee for Rallying Cry. I would probably keep Essence if you can get it, just because that extra healing that it gives you is really noticeable. Obviously, Rallying Cry is easier to get, and you just swap the weights around. You still go 3 heavy, 1 light, 3 medium. So you just have to change the setup, but you need either Essence or Rally and Wretched. You need the sustain. That's kind of needed. Looking at the poll, it's literally like mag range is 50% and then everything else is there. So we'll look at how we can make a Magicka ranged Necromancer. Just before I change it quickly though, if you wanted to make this into a stamina build, because there isn't actually many changes to make, you would probably change some of your skills. The sets are probably going to stay the same. You might swap this for Balorg, to have that big burst hit. Balorg is phenomenal for that. But this is really, really good. I would definitely keep this if you can, but Balorg is worth considering. Essence is amazing. Wretched is amazing. You need these things. You could change Wretched for Rallying Cry as an alternative, and do Essence and Rally. You'll then have more damage, but you'd obviously have less sustain. Skill wise, I would probably go with Dizzying Swing or Wrecking Blow. If I'm using Dazing Soul, Dizzying Swing. If I'm Wrecking Blow. If I'm using not Dazing Soul, then I'll probably keep Dizzying Swing because it does give us this snare. It also gives us the pseudo stun. We could then run Executioner, which is what I'd probably do. Everything else you'd probably keep the same. You have a stamina spammable with a stamina execute. If you're dual wield, well, you simply go down to dual wield. You go for Whirling Blades as the execute, and you either use Rapid Strikes or Bloodlust, which gives more healing, which is quite nice, but Rapid Strikes is generally better for damage. So obviously you get up to a 20% boost on the final hit, so it adds a bit more damage. Bloodthirst is pretty decent. And then that would also work. Obviously use dual wield. If you don't want to use dual wield, but you want to use a stamina spammable, go down to Undaunted and Inner Fire, turn it to Inner Beast. This is similar spammable damage to range skills. So if you look, it's 7-2. If I compare that to the Sigic Order, 7-2. It's exactly the same amount of damage. So you could use this instead. Obviously this will go up with Death Dealers and our other buffs, but it's also minor maim and minor vulnerability, so they have more damage taken and they do less damage to you. And it's also dirt cheap and it's ranged. So this is really good. So if you're going to go as a ranged, like a Stam Necro, do consider this. Melee, I'd probably go with two-handed Dizzying Swing. I like that. It's just really satisfying when it lands. And use Executioner. But I'd probably keep the sets the same, in all honesty. So if you were going to go for melee Stam, that's what I'd do. Let me just quickly change back to the thing. We'll look at how we can make a mag one. Okay. So we want people sent a ranged Magicka Necromancer. We need to go look at the range spammable because that's what a lot of this lies on, and you probably have to keep the stamina blast bones because you don't have a Magicka version of this anymore. So you have to run this one. That's just non-negotiable. When you play at range, you do not have a stun, which means you'd probably need Dazing Soul. That limits our spammables down to Flame Skull, which is pretty lackluster in my opinion. It's too slow. Venom Skull or Ricochet Skull, all are bad. That then means you either have Force Shock, which could be Crushing Shock or False Pulse, which is pretty decent, Crushing Shock particularly. Or you could go with the Mage Guild, not Mage Guild, sorry, the Sigic Order, and Elemental Weapon. Again, similar damage. And I would probably go with, if I'm being range, Inner Light over Camo Hunter, just because the max Magicka would be quite nice. And we're not unlikely to proc the from behind. So I wouldn't worry massively about that. Armor wise would have similar back bar in all honesty, because you need armor, you need burst skill, you need movement skill, you need debuff, you need a heal over time. So this might be vigor, but that's kind of by the by. We'll probably need a dot because we won't have enough sustained pressure. Now there's no sticky dot that we can add to them easily beyond entropy. And then we morph to degen, which is our damage buff. So we could use that, which is 1 dot, like a dot there essentially. So it's 2 dots plus the heavy attack, 3 dots. Spammable, burst skill. This needs to be meteor because that's the only good one there is. Obviously, we wouldn't use Essence or Master Locks. We'll change those. I would keep Wretched because we need that sustain. And I'm just thinking, what could we add with it? Now, without Master Lock, we lack Burst. And so we need to somehow get some ranged burst in the build, which is really hard. Now, we could obviously like cheese it with Dragonkin Asylum. That just cheeses it. That's really good. That works on everything. But I don't want to go down that route. So I'm just having to think about which monster sets we could use. Construct, possibly. Kalnar's Nightmare fits really thematically. That's got good damage. We'll go with the Nightmare thing. I think that would probably help. So at 5 stats, undodgeable skeletal hands attacks does damage. It does like just under burst skill damage for people curious, but it also stuns them if they can't be if they can be stunned. So it's kind of a stun or damage is good. Heavy and medium. Let's just. That's 10k, so that's quite a good one, that is. We need to have a lightning staff front bar. So Essence has to change. Now we need a front bar set, so we could use Rally, which is a popular set. Star Elon says, I want to use it thematically, but I'm not light attacking that much on my melee build. I'll be dead before I get enough attacks. Yeah, I'm using this on a range build. On melee, I wouldn't use this on melee. So we're going to swap this for a staff. I'm just thinking what set to pair with it. I either go with like Way of the Fire, which is a proc damage set, and it will help give us more sustained damage, which is it is quite useful. Or we go Rallying Cry, which gives us damage and defense. They're just thinking. I think I'll probably go with Rally. I like my damage to come from my source. Let me look, I'm just checking what Way of the Fire tooltip is though, because it's a very good set. Mag range, no one wants to get dirty. I've just made a mag melee build, Greg. I'll show it in a second. I'm just tweaking the range one, seeing how I can kind of get it there. Yeah. So I'm kind of between Wear the Fire and Rallying Cry. Like, you need to have sets that are really like stat dense or effective, and those are both really good sets. I'm probably going to go Fire, I think. Obviously, I would tweak the weights. I'm not going to do it now because it's late. But I would probably go and anything that is essence, just put as Fire. I reckon melee card could be viable next patch. I do like genuinely believe that. I will set mine up and I'll try and get it ready for like the first week, and I'll show it on stream. Like I'm positive this could work. Just looking at the how it felt, the movement speed, the damage, I feel this could be viable. And I'm probably going to say I think melee's going to be stronger than ranged. Like, as much as you might not want to hear that, I think it's better. Is it armor of the fire? I don't know if I'm where the way of the fire is. I am somewhat tired. It's like on midnight. You're probably watching. I've done this when I've seen people stuff, and then they're like, the box is here. Or it's just there on your screen. I'm like, I can't see it. It's too late. Yeah, so we'll probably put on fire, which will be about 2.3k. It will go down a bit because it's not. No, that needs to be wretched still. Let's go get our fire jewelry. Obviously, we'll go with change these to be like different traits, so infuse and bits. But I'm just getting a rough feel. Like, I know that'll be about 2,300 when it's fully buffed, like when we set up and stuff, and then Death Leaders would push it our stats, but not that because that's weapon and spell damage. So maybe Marken would be better for this. Is this also weapon and spell damage? Yeah, let's change this to Marken then. Let's infuse those quickly. I want 2 swift. I think with Necro you need the speed. In all honesty, it's not the healing power is not there on the class, so you need the speed to like basically. It sounds a bit harsh, but if you fuck up, then you can get away. Like, pardon the language, but I think that's like you need it. I can't see how else you'd make it work otherwise. That's going to be magic. That's going to be regen. This will probably be regen, but I'm going to put damage there just in case. No, that should be that's going to say heavy. I would probably swap these around, but they won't make a big difference stat wise. So that is 2.5. Let's put on our damage buff. $3,000, okay? So that's pretty decent there. That's quite a good proc. And that is 11,000. So again, this is quite a good... So we've got some procs now to help with the damage. What's our armor on? Armor's nice and high. Is that... Our regens are a bit low though, so I think we need to get our regens up a bit more. I've already fed the cats. I've already fed the cats. Yeah. Right. Yeah, I think... So these will be tweaked a little bit. Yeah, I think I'm probably going to go with this for my range build. Just looking at the things, I'm going to go and just do a quick test in IC. Just get a feel for how it feels. I think the sustain's a little bit lower than I'd like. So I might run the Atronach Mundus instead. Or change a glyph. Greg was saying he wants he went werewolf on his Damcrow. Against like ads and stuff, the damage is fine. So it has burst like that. That's quite a good burst that lands. Let's find the boss and check the defense. I think we need more sustain is what I'm going to say. And we also lack the heal from rally. So again, that's another heal loss and essence. So I think we might lack some healing power. Which means Inner Light might have to be changed to Vigor. I think we need the Ghost and this. This is a crush shot might be more useful. JR Diesel says, which Mind Stones are good for an Arcanist tank? PvP or PvE? Because they do make kind of a difference. If it's PvE, you typically want to go something like the Atronach. The regen is quite nice. And use a lot of mag skills for support. If you're going PvP on a tank, again, you'll probably want to go for a regen buff because that's the most stat dense. Oh, there's someone else over here. Yeah, I think we need. I think we need more sustain and healing. So we're going to swap the bits out. And so change the Mundus to the Atronach or use a glyph, and then probably change Inner Light to Vigor. And I'll probably put Ghost front bar, Vigor back bar. But yeah, to your thing, JR, what I'd say PvE tank, it's Atronach Mundus is typically the best. You hit armor cap anyway, so you don't need armor. You don't need more healing, so yeah, Atronach's kind of like the go-to. You can then go for PvP if you want a tank. Again, Atronach Mundus is nice. Ritual can be good, or Steed. But I'll probably go regen. Just it's like the most useful because you're going to be spamming skills anyway for PvP. If you're on a bash build where you're trying to kill people with bashing on a tank, then you're probably going to want to stack resistances instead and use the Lord Mundus, I think it is, which gives you armor. But again, the damage boost you get from that is not huge, so you're probably better just keeping regen as it is, because it's the most, again, one of the most stat dense ones. The changes I'm going to make to this, having just seen that, is going to swap this here. Let's hit Ghosty Boy and put him on the front bar. I'm going to change my... As much as this is cool, I don't like this skill personally. I'd rather use Crushing Shock. Then that will give us more healing power, and we then just need to fix the bit. Because we've got... let's just put our weapon as well, the right trait. So 8k, that's going to go down. Was it? So that's like 5k, isn't it? This is like a really annoying bug when this happens. Yeah, 5k. Adds 11,000 pen. It's on the lower side. You could use charged absorb stamina for the minor pen, which will give us another 3k pen. So we'll do that, I think. But we lose that. We'll keep that there, but we'll change it just to an absorb stamina glyph and backbar the poisons here. I'm using the armor of the Akaviri Dragon set with a second 2 monster set. I can't remember the name of them, as I'm not on yet. Akaviri Guard's quite good. If you're looking for PvE tanks, look at the Tank Club. He's really good. I'll show you the website. Bear with me 1 second. So they do some good PvE tank builds. So I would look at those. Your Akaviri Dragon Guard is a decent tank set. It's really good for like ult reduction. If you're PvE, Leech and Plate's very good. It just keeps you alive, basically. Battalion Defender is also worth looking at. Monster set wise, people just normally use one piece Magma Incarnate, and they use the Spalder of Ruin, I think it is. It's a mythic item. Yeah, he's on YouTube as well. But he's quite good for like PvE tanks. And let's go get a glyph. Change our glyph. Weapon enchants. Absorb stamina. That gives us more pen, which we will be lacking. So that's Minor Breach. So I'll show you the uptime on Minor Breach if people are curious. So I'm just gonna light attack. So you can see at the moment it's not proccing there. Now, we're going to put on the right one this time. I put on the wrong absorb glyph. Okay, I'll show you it again. Okay, ignore that last bit. Okay, so there it is already. And then it's down, then it's back up again. It's down. Yeah, I hope it helps. Yeah, I said he's pretty decent. I like Sorcerer tank. I really enjoy playing that. So you can see the uptime's not terrible. It's about 50%. So I'll stop this in a moment and do the CMX. So we get it to 90%, we will, and then maybe 92%. There we go. Okay, so the Saunder is 50%, which means our debuff is also 50%. Minor breach, look at that. So yeah, the absorb stamina glyph is basically it's a 50-50, whether you get the breach or not. But for half the fight, you're going to have that pen. So doing the absorb stamina is quite a cheeky way to get extra penetration now. This character is a Necromancer, yes. The big skeleton hand is a monster set. It's this one here. Kunar's Nightmare, I think it's pronounced. It's something like that. But that's what this set does here. I'm going to go and save this loadout. I think this is probably like the most optimized I get for a range one, giving me movements like burst heals, burst damage, stun. I think this is like the most versatile we'll get. And we're going to rename this to ranged macro. Yeah, and I've just put the help there because that's just as a prompt for me, because I want to go and give it a bit of help and some testing, because I will look at it and go, oh, what do I need to just check? I will look at it once more in the morning just to check that I'm still happy with it, but I think that's where I'm leaning at this moment. No. Okay. The melee one I was happy with. This was good. I felt this was, it had good damage, good sustain, good. I liked this. I think this is a little bit weaker in my opinion. I think the melee one was better, but this one I think it will work. I just need to test it more, and just obviously change a few traits and bits. For the melee one, I'm going to go through the builds that I've done tonight just so people can see, and then we'll probably reconvene and do another stream maybe in the week where I can just do a few more builds, and then I'll make videos for these kind of showing bush exactly how they work. So for the range one, before I forget, I'm going to superstar it as well so people can see that. So for the range one, we're using Kunar's Nightmare, Trainee, Wretched Vitality, and Wear of the Fire, possibly Rallying Cry. But yeah, that's this. I think this would work in all honesty, but I just need to give it a bit more testing. The melee version of a Magcro, that is using the following. So we're using Master Lock, we're using Trainee, Wretched Vitality, and Essence Thief with Death Dealer's feat. Death Dealers could be Ring of Mark and Majesty or Saint and Seducers because you are in melee, so you're getting both effects. And Essence could be Rallying Cry if you don't have Essence. Obviously, if you change this to Rallying Cry, just note you have slightly less healing and you have slightly less stam sustain, so you might need to add some more recovery into the build. It's also worth mentioning that you'll need to change the weights around to have 3 medium, 3 heavy, and 1 light. So just do factor that in if you do go down Rallying Cry. I then made a Sorcerer, which I'm going to quickly show, and then an Arcanist. Robert says a Dot Warden build would be amazing next time. Dot Warden's really good. My Soul Bones was a Necromancer that used Soul Assault and dots, and then I made that on a Warden, which was the Infector, which is basically just loads of dots on a Warden, which is really fun. And then the Dot Crow, which I've updated recently, kind of used what I used in Warden on the Necro. And you could just take the Dot Crow build, which is on the channel already, and put it on a Warden, and it works. You just change like Blast Bones to Fetcher Infection. And then you can use like Deep Fish if you wish, or Cut and Die for an extra dot. So there's a few options. For the Sorcerer for this coming patch, what we are doing is very similar. Mighty Tudor, it frees up bar space. You could change this for like 1 Baron Thrisk, 1 Magnemite Incarnate, and then change the Warden Contingency, which is Alfred's Contingency, to Vigor or to Boundless Storm. I'd go Boundless Storm because you need movement. You need the armor buff. So if you drop the monster set, put the armor on the skill. By doing that though, you have to maintain the armor skill, and you only gain an extra 80 recovery roughly, so it's not huge. And you have all that risk of having to juggle it, so I don't think it's worth it. We then pair 1 trainee, and we use Wretched Vitality and Crafty Elfique with their Death Dealer's feats. I used the Mage Mundus this time. Having tested both, the damage from the Lover and the Mage was very similar to damage done. So in most instances the Lover was better, but it was just better. It wasn't so much better that it was like, oh my goodness, I need to run this. It was, oh, I hit an extra 200 or 300 harder. 200 or 300 isn't going to get a kill, in my opinion. If it was an extra 2,000 or 3,000, then it's a very big, different story. So the Mage was better because it gave you bigger shields. The shield also scaled off healing, so you get bigger heals as well. I also changed the spammable from to Shock and Soul. So this, when it's buffed, was almost 14,000 as a spammable for range, which was disgusting. I think it was like 13,800 or something stupid. This base went to 11,000. This bonus bit in the middle went to 2,800. It was like really, really high. So this is what we're using here, and we're using an Inferno Staff this time, not an Ice Staff. The reason we use an Inferno Staff is because of this passive down here in Trifocus. Fully charged Inferno attacks deal 17,000 flame damage. This scales of max resource. So when we get our actual buffs going, it goes up. As you can see, well, on the front bar is 20k. So if you did this, for example, heavy attack bar swap, you will then get this value. And with Death Dealers, this goes up even higher. So this is the dot. So the reason we use the Inferno Staff, it gives us an extra dot that we don't normally have on the build. And the only thing we lose is the block reduction that an Ice Staff would give you. But normally I'm not blocking on my Sorcerer, I'm streaking away and roll dodging. So I don't want to be standing still and blocking. So I find that the Inferno is probably better nowadays because you can heavy attack and it gives you that extra pressure that you might not always have. So that's the changes I made with the Sorcerer. We are Vampire 1, but I might go stage 3. I need to test that on live. I think stage 3 is still worth it in my opinion. And then for the contingency skill, it is the shield, it is the Gladiator's Tenacity, which is that 8% damage reduction, and the regen. The Gladiator's Tenacity script is available right now in the Sicilarium, so if you haven't got that, do log into live and buy it. It's going to run out in like a day or so. The final build we made then was also the Arcanist, and this one I was setting up to kind of be more of a burst Arcanist. So rather than having to use like the beam, which is just awful in PvP, or having to use loads of proc sets to kill people, I've tried to make this feel like a Necromancer or a Warden. And so what we've got is this. We are using Talk of the Last Aelid King. You can swap this for Rallying Cry and Wretched Vitality, which will give you very similar results. You either put on Balog for more damage or Rosika for more sustain, or a mix of Magma and Baron Thrisk. With this, we essentially using Talk. We use Escalating Rune Blades as our spammable. We make this Magicka because this is easier to sustain, but you might want to go with Stam and just change the point from Magicka to Stamina. I need to check this in a real fight. But when I was playing around with it, it was fine. I could sustain it fine. So I might tweak that still. We use Tentacular Dread, which when it's fully buffed, gets stupidly high now. So we've got 3 Crux. Our Tentacular Dread is already at 15,000. So, and we can like recharge this really quick. Another 15k there. And it goes up and up and up with Death Dealers. I think it goes to about 17,000 if you use Death Dealers with this. So you can obviously like get a similar effect to Talk, but with like Death Dealers and Rally and wretched, but this is like just always on. So the damage difference is very like negligible. We then have the typical loadout. I add a burst skill, which is healing soul when it's our big heal. This is almost 15,000 towards when it's fully buffed. So this is really high. And just to show that, I'm just going to get some crux going. So there is 14,500 and this is a 23,000 heal almost. With Sworded it goes up to 23k. But it's hard to proc it. So that's what we're doing on the Arcanist. The idea is that we basically attack people with rune blades as we run towards them. When we get close, we then hit them with the colourless pull into a Dawnbreaker, into a Dread. And then we execute. And then this will land pretty much within one combo. So by the time they get stunned and they CC break, the Dreads hit them because it's AoE. They've roll dodged and you catch them when they roll dodge with the execute. And that will get you the kill. So that's kind of how I'm planning to play this build. But that's what I worked on this evening. The Necro obviously took a lot of the testing. If you do have any kind of builds that you want to see, like going, oh, how would a Warden look, or a Templar, or a DK, let me know in the comments of this video or join my Discord and obviously ask there, and I will kind of look at that and decide which one do we focus on next. Will we kind of get to the Warden or the DK? I don't know. But that would just really help me decide. If you did want to join the Discord, I have a link here which I'm going to paste now. And I'm going to sort of call it here because it is late where I am. So I want to say just a massive thanks to all the support. The likes, comments, shares, subscribes really, really help out more than you realise. And I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody on YouTube who's a member and also on Patreon who do support. They get exclusive content, early access and much more. There's details down below. But as always, I'm going to catch you in the next video on the next stream. So thanks for watching, guys. Take care. And bye.